Welcome to GLAAACC in the AM, and today we're presenting the impact of public policy. My name is Angela Gibson Shaw, and I have the pleasure of serving as the president and CEO of the Greater Los Angeles African American Chamber of Commerce, better known as GLAAACC. Our GLAAACC in the AM is our technical assistance program, and today we're bringing you a very special presentation on public policy. The main purpose of public policy is to translate societal values into action through government measures, aiming to improve the quality of life and ensure a well-functioning society. We thought it was important to kick off this series with an understanding of the impact of public policy. And so we have gathered today some experts that are going to share with you public policy programs, the impact it's had on Los Angeles, and other understandings of public policy, and teach us how to view these issues with a business lens. So the next time that you hear and see politicians and elected officials and you talk about and hear about different legislative bills, you'll be able to also view them from a business standpoint. And so our speakers today are experts in that field. And to lead us through today's conversation is our MC, Ms. McKenzie Neely-Wright, who is an external affairs director with AT&T, and she also serves on the board of directors with GLAAACC. Oh, that's nice. Nice photo. Area manager, external affairs. Oh, Los Angeles, South Bay, and West Side cities. So she's going to guide our conversation today. We're going to help her monitor the questions that you put in the chat box. And with that, we'll get right into our program and welcome. McKenzie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Angela, and welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining. I had this idea of kind of putting together a public policy group with GLAAACC because I think it's important for small businesses and businesses within our community to have a understanding of the impact of public policy and how politics can impact your business. And as there are, as Angela mentioned, bills and legislation and things that impact your businesses, it's important to know that you too, as a business owner, or even if you work for a business, have a voice in how these things happen. And so I just want to put that into your mindset as you hear from our wonderful speakers today. And also consider when you hear the word coalition, that you too, as a business or a nonprofit, have the ability to join a coalition. And these usually are coalitions of like-minded businesses and or businesses or organizations of like-minded interest. And so just consider that, especially if you're asked to join, don't be afraid. There are some benefits as well as just beyond networking, but there's a benefit in making sure that policies get your voice in how they are crafted so that you are thought about as a leader, as a business owner, entrepreneur, nonprofit, executive director, and the sort. So with that, I'm going to get us started with our first speaker, which is Samara Ashley. She is president and CEO of the Strategic Advocacy Group and a recognized leader in public policy, intergovernmental affairs, and public relations. With 25 years experience of with 25 years of experience, she has shaped legislation, built coalitions, there's that word again, and secured critical resources for Southern California communities. Her career includes senior roles with Los Angeles County, where she advanced policy and funding priorities, and the Port of Long Beach, where she held efforts on trade, infrastructure, and sustainability. Today, through the Strategic Advocacy Group, she helps organizations and leaders turn complex policy challenges into actionable strategies that drive impact and results. Samara, the floor is yours.
Thank you, McKenzie, and good afternoon, everyone. And I just want to thank the GLAAACC leadership and staff for convening this timely and relevant session. As you heard, my name is Samara Ashley, and I've spent over 2 decades working at the intersection of government, business, and community. And across all of these roles, one theme has remained constant, that it's the power of public policy to shape the economic, social, and cultural landscape of our communities, and the need for businesses to have a very strong and informed voice in that process. Public policy is definitely not a spectator sport. Every decision made in Washington, D.C., Sacramento, state or federal regulatory agencies at City Hall or by a county board of supervisors has a direct impact on how businesses operate, whether it's through taxes, regulations, legislation, or budgets that dictate workforce policies, environmental rules, or infrastructure investments. When businesses are absent from the table, policies are shaped oftentimes without their perspective, and the result can be missed opportunities to have your voice be heard, unintended consequences when policies are set that don't have input from subject matter experts like yourselves, and rules that slow growth rather than spark it. So engagement is not only about protecting your interests, but it's about helping government understand the realities on the ground. I believe in large part that a majority of policymakers want to pass good bills or budgets, but they don't always see how those decisions play on the ground. And that's where business owners and industry leaders come in. You are the ones who understand the day-to-day impacts, the workforce realities, the practical solutions that can make policy work. And in Washington, D.C. and here in California, the stakes could not be higher. We're in a dynamic, you all have seen it, sometimes volatile political climate. Sacramento is balancing ambitious goals such as climate action issues, housing affordability, workforce equity, with budget constraints and competing regional priorities, in addition to threats from the current federal administration. And that means that legislation often moves fast and the details get worked out in committee hearings and regulatory rulemaking where businesses' input is critical. And closer to home here in Los Angeles County, at the city of Los Angeles and surrounding cities, public policy debates are also shaping the future of mobility, housing, energy, justice, and workforce development, many of the issues that you are all focused on. And meanwhile, regulatory agencies, whether it's the South Coast Air Quality Management District, state housing departments, or LA's planning commissions, they're rolling out new rules that affect permitting and a number of those issues that I've raised. And the business community must be engaged in these conversations, not after the fact, but as part of the policymaking process. And on top of that, upcoming elections in 2025 in November, and then also in 2026 will allow us to vote on everything from ballot measures as well as local, state, and national seats. So there are numerous ways that your voice can be heard, whether it's at a public hearing or whether you're attending a fundraiser. It's important for your voice to be heard. And one of the most overlooked aspects of advocacy is consistency. Policymakers, legislative staff, agency leaders, and regulators need ongoing education, not just during a crisis or when a bill is up for a vote, but the businesses that succeed in shaping policy are really those that invest in relationships year round. They show up to hearings locally in Sacramento or do Hill visits. They invite policy makers to tour their facilities, to provide data, and to share stories that humanize their industry's impact. And this is the kind of engagement that ensures that when a tough decision comes up, your perspective is not a new voice, but it's a trusted one. And in today's climate, continuous education and relationship building is more important than ever. Throughout my career, I have found that education and engagement has been critical. And this is also why chambers of commerce like GLAAACC and business associations matter so much. As McKenzie mentioned, coalitions are important. They amplify the collective voice of our businesses before policymakers and regulators, because there's a real power in numbers. A single company story is compelling, but when hundreds of businesses speak together, that message is impossible to be ignored. And organizations like mine also exist to help companies get connected, stay engaged, and to make sure that their perspectives are heard in the conversations that shape policy. So I think my message today for you all is this: don't wait until a motion is before the City Council or the Board of Supervisors, or a bill or budget proposal, is on the governor's desk to get involved. Engage early, engage often, and engage strategically. Build relationships with legislators, with regulators, and staff. I'm a former staffer of the California State Senate, so trust me, it is important to, and you'll hear from some staff today, and make sure that they know who you are, what your business contributes to the community and the region, and how public policy can either help or hinder your success. Because when businesses step up as partners in shaping policy, the result isn't just better outcomes for the private sector. It's stronger, more resilient communities throughout Southern California and California. So thank you very much for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Samara. And I just want to highlight a few things that you mentioned and also ask if there are any questions, just put them in the chat and we'll kind of, after all the presenters have gone, we'll that people fully understand when we talk about unexpected rules and consequences, that can be additional fees or costs to get a license or permit. That can look like additional fees to even enter a market, like a barrier to entry. All of those types of things can happen when you're not engaging and speaking to your legislators, your elected officials, so that they understand your business needs. But also sometimes on the flip side of that, having those conversations can create legislation or a bill to be drafted, because you might express that you're having an issue, or that there's, a process in place that is not beneficial to your business. And then the legislator can come back and say, something ought to be done about that. And then they turn it around and they introduce legislation that goes through the process. And or on a local level, a lot of times, and this comes from like an AT&T perspective, as we've been asking for permits with cities, their permitting process is like really convoluted and they never considered it because they don't do that. And so then you advocate and talk to them and they say, oh, well, let me go ahead and simplify this process or put it all online or digitize it so that it's more convenient so that we can, because that's also income to your cities. So just putting that out there. And I know that that was like your final thing, but did you want to say anything else before we go to the next person, Samara?
You covered it. It's just important to let folks know, especially elected officials or even department heads. I think that's an important thing that you raised in cities or counties and state agencies, to let them know what that process is like for your business so that they can make efficiency improvements.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're going to shift to our next speaker, Kelly Leo. I had it and then it just lost me. Kelly LoBianco is the first director of the Los Angeles County Department of Economic Opportunity, DEO, is the Central Economic and Workforce Development Agency of Los Angeles County. Through a regional strategy and community-centered policy and programs, the department seeks to unlock the vast potential of our local workers and small businesses, drive new competitive investments that creates quality jobs, career pathways, and diverse talent pipelines, support economic security and mobility for all residents, and collectively build an equitable economy poised for inclusive and sustainable growth. Kelly was appointed director in July of 2022. She joined the county in 2021 to support the department's establishment. Kelly, the floor is yours.
Thank you, McKenzie. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. As you heard, I'm Kelly LoBianco, Director of the LA County Department of Economic Opportunity. And here, let me share, if I can figure it out. One sec. My deck. Here we go. Oh, I don't know if I have.
You have it now.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Can folks see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to run through this quickly, but I figured it might be a helpful tool and takeaway. But you just heard from my former colleague, Samara, about the importance of engaging with your counties. And I'm here to reiterate that too. The Department of Economic Opportunity, as you can see here, is a relatively new department in LA County. We're 3 years old. We were created by the LA County Board of Supervisors in the midst of the pandemic, realizing there wasn't a central economic development agency, and really needing to coalesce all of our policy and programs and services and resources for workers, for small businesses, and for our communities to better ensure an equitable recovery and moreover, a more equitable economy as we thought about doing things differently in the future. We saw how disastrous the pandemic was for LA County in all dimensions. And this really was an opportunity for us to do things differently. We like to say that we do economic development differently. We are not here for growth's sake, but really to ensure that there is opportunity and mobility for all, and that we're driving not only growth, but inclusive and sustainable growth in the region. And I will just say, even the creation of our department came out of years and years of advocacy from the public, private, and social sector, knowing that there needed to be a county champion for the region to ensure not only that we were meeting the needs 5 million workers and 1 million businesses, but marshaling the resources that are needed to meet the needs and opportunities here in LA County from the local, state, and federal and philanthropic sectors, honestly. And so it's sort of the voice of the majority that has gotten us to this place, and we're doing our part at the department to help achieve that mission and vision. All right, so a little bit super high level, like you heard me mention in my spiel, we support businesses, we support workers, and we support communities, but we also support a broader economic leadership and strategy. Just in case you don't know us, the policy and the budget and the programs and services that we enact and implement are through partnership. So we deliver all of our programs and services through community-based organizations, industry associations and employers, labor institutions, educational institutions, and beyond. And so we collectively inspire the kind of work that needs to happen to lift up our communities. But through our public workforce system, our job centers, we provide job readiness, training, and a connection to work for workers. No cost, but we also support our businesses. And I think that's one thing that's not super well known about our public workforce system and our America's Job Centers of California. If you are looking to hire, you don't have to do that alone. We can provide recruitment services at no cost for matching to qualified talent, but also a lot of financial incentives, whether that's wage subsidy for transitional work or on-the-job training to be able to bring on someone sooner when you might not have the capital to do that, or develop customized training programs to lift up your current incumbent workforce, or even be part of our Youth at Work program that supports 10,000 young adults per year, which is at no cost to employers. We are looking to meet a dual customer approach for workers and businesses. All right. We also have an Office of Small Business. So for our business and nonprofits in the room, this is no cost concierge support with direct business counseling at every level of your business, and referrals to capital and to legal aid also at no cost. We also are supporting folks in getting certified for county contracting as well as all public sector contracting. Talk a little bit more about that in a second, but there's $6 to $8 billion in procurement power within the county alone. We buy everything, pencils to bridges, and we want to make sure that folks have access to this honestly very sustainable funding stream for folks in addition to whatever else is in your diverse financial portfolio. To actually reach the broader region through advocacy of a lot of folks that said the Office of Small Business that we had in the county wasn't making it to all 4,000 square miles of LA County. Supervisor Mitchell, the Board of Supervisors, passed the Economic Mobility Initiative that we were able to operationalize because of the advocacy of the region to bring as many American Rescue Plan dollars in during the pandemic. And that enabled us to fund 15 partners to help us reach 10,000 small businesses. And I'm happy to report we've already reached over 11,000. And we did that through entrepreneurship academies, technical assistance, and lots of capital. I mentioned contracting. I can't emphasize this as enough, especially as we look towards the games. Getting certified with the county is a way for folks to access this very sustainable funding stream, and we're proud to keep advancing those dollars going to small businesses and small nonprofits, including, as you can see here, we're in the millions and even billions here in terms of contracting power going to our small businesses. Our department does that directly. We also know that once you get a contract for us, it can be very difficult. And in some cases, you're just looking for a permit or an inspection or entitlement to build or do whatever you need to do in your course of business. So our department, through a series of motions, is actually implementing government navigation services, express services for businesses who are small and community serving, and reducing the time to final approval by 25%. And that's in partnership with Public Works and regional planning. Trying to cut that red tape, honestly. We here, LA County is not a business-friendly town, and we don't like that. We want to be, competitive with our peers in business friendliness so we can keep people here, grow people, and attract them. And this is one of the ways that we do that. Capital is something that everyone in the room and everyone I ever talk to is looking for from an economic development department like ours. Through recovery dollars, we've put out over 56 million in grants. We have been funding 10 plus what we call business interruption funds for the entertainment strikes, for the fires, and we're about to launch a program in just a couple of weeks around small businesses impacted by immigration enforcement actions, making sure that folks have capital when the going gets tough, because we want to retain them so they're able to weather the storm and build future resiliency. But we're also putting grants out there for our sidewalk vendors who, through recent laws at the state and local level, are now legal business entities, and we're helping formalize those businesses here in the county. And it's really important right now, especially with what's happening with ICE raids and just the general uncertainty in the environment, supporting our vending community. And we're also thinking about creative ways to get capital out there for folks, whether it's a grant or a loan, but also helping folks buy property. So we ran a commercial acquisition fund, and you can expect more in that space from us. I mentioned sidewalk vendors, so we'll send this out. We also are continually lifting up our businesses through public information campaigns. So it's a big success for us should small businesses and nonprofits do well. So you'll see us continually pushing to shop local, to buy local, to invest local here in LA County. And then just a couple quick things before I close out that I just want to make sure that folks hear from us, because we've heard this from the community and we're trying to pay it forward, is that we want to make sure folks have access not only to contracting because we need your goods and services and expertise, but we also see public sector support and diversification of revenue as important for us as well. So we're doing a lot of things to make it easier to contract with us. So next year, you'll see a revolving loan fund and cash advance pilots, and you're also going to see move towards e-procurement systems that cut down on all of the administrative burdens that folks have to engage in. Sorry, I don't know where all the sounds are coming from. All right. We also are partnering with the region. So everyone you might have to work with, whether it's the city or metro or the airports or the state, to build reciprocity in our systems. And again, collectively as a region, make it easier to contract with the public. All right. Last two things that I want to mention, industry clusters. It's not just small businesses here. We're also looking at our major industries and making sure our legacy industries and emerging ones are supported. Through partnership with the state, we were able to just secure $24 million to support our life sciences industry. And so we will be providing two funds that help life sciences firms gain long-term space for commercialization and manufacturing here. And that's just one of the ways that the industry has spoken up, and we've been able to marshal funds for the region. And lastly, we're getting ready for the games. And even though it's been a tough time here in LA County, with everything that's happened in 2025, we're also keeping our eyes on the opportunity of the future. Getting certified means you're going to be in a good position to get contracts with LA28 and the Super Bowl and FIFA. So we're encouraging that connection. But folks can look to places like the Department of Economic Opportunity to share how you want to get involved and what you want community benefit to look like when major investments like this come to town and put us on the global stage. So that's all from us. I'll share this out, but mostly I just want to sort of lift up that everything I just shared here are policy and programs and services that are direct to the community, no cost to the community, with the goal of making sure, apologies, there's a alarm here, but making sure that our economy thrives. But we do that because you're pushing us from behind. So I continue to keeping us in your mind and keep your voice coming and making sure that we know what you need, because we're here to build it with you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. There was a question in the chat, but you answered it on the last slide about how to get in contact with the program that you were mentioning. So hopefully they were able to capture that in their um, on a personal side. But in the interest of time, I'm not going to give any more commentary. I'm going to jump over to our next speaker. And I lost my screen real quick. Okay. So we have Mike Castillo, who is the executive director of the Business Resource Center. Mike Castillo, there it is, has decades-long public service, which includes work in the California State Assembly, the California State Senate, and the City of Los Angeles. Currently, he serves as a director of the Business Resource Center in the Los Angeles Council District 9, overseeing business development strategies to support entrepreneurs and helping businesses thrive in South Los Angeles. Mike has dedicated his life to being a public servant since graduating from the University of California, Davis with a Bachelor of Arts in International Relations and Chicano Studies. Mike, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, McKenzie. Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully all you're doing well. I know, one of the things that was mentioned was on the advocacy front. And I really wanted to kind of center, I guess, some of my comments regarding that. And one of the things I wanted to ask you as, entrepreneurs at, different levels and business owners is, who is your representative? Do you know who is your state assembly member? Do you know who represents you at the county level? And so I say that because half of everything, is the information, but you also need to know, well, whose boundaries are you in? And that's, quite frankly, I think kind of half the battle already, is understanding, whose jurisdiction are you in? And when you know whose jurisdiction are you in is, then, I would highly encourage you to figure out, well, who is my go-to person in that office, and establish that relationship. Because it's going to be a matter of time before a situation occurs where you're going to need to contact that individual, or you're going to need to kind of pick up the phone. And, with the amount of businesses and constituency services that these elected official offices have, what really helps cut through a lot of that is having that relationship. And I think sometimes these relationships, they take time to develop, but I would definitely recommend that if you don't already have those relationships, to start kind of creating them, with those key staffs. I know what somebody wants to do is kind of go ahead and talk to the elected official, which definitely you should. But the staffs is really where it's at, and really where a lot of these, a lot of the work kind of gets done. So, one of the things I would like to just kind of offer to everybody is, sometime between, today and maybe before the end of the month, is know who those key staffers in those individual offices are for your department, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be able to guide you. Here in Council District 9 for Councilman Price's office, that's been myself and, a different number of partners, and some of the things that, that come across our office, just to give you an idea, are, compliance issues. Sometimes it might be a certain department that maybe you're doing a build out, that you need somebody to maybe pick up the phone for you, call a certain department, maybe bring a couple of departments together and try to kind of resolve an issue. Or, sometimes you want to get ahead and figure out kind of, hey, what's kind of coming on the pipeline? Well, all that becomes a lot more easier if you have those relationships. Los Angeles really in the last, I would say maybe like last 5-10 years. I mean, you take a look at the downtown skyline, there's so much kind of going on in terms of development. Los Angeles is, the city of Los Angeles is a beast to kind of try and tame, in terms of, well, where do I go to kind of get all this information, and one of the things that I could tell you is, what kind of depends on where you're at. I'll give you guys an example. for DWP, for example, there are pre-development resources and programs that they have as you're trying to kind of build out your projects that folks might not necessarily be, aware of. EWDD, that's really for the city of Los Angeles, the economic workforce. Economic and Workforce Development Department is really the hub where a lot of the programs for the city of LA are really housed. And so if you guys have never been on their site, I highly encourage you to go on there and see what they have available. That's really the intersection of where public policy and your business meet, is knowing what's available for me, currently. And it's not just what's available for you currently, but then also, you have organizations such as GLAAACC that is offering this opportunity, to kind of come before us and discuss these issues. I'll give you an example. In the past, our office has partnered with NAMAC, the National Association of Minority Contractors, to kind of talk about the different issues that are happening within the construction services kind of companies, and the reason why we wanted to do that is because we were seeing, and our experience with procurement is that we've seen businesses that have been successful in landing some of these contracts. But what ends up happening is on the paperwork part, that is where a lot of these businesses kind of need help, And so working with them to kind of having kind of a course where these construction companies can learn from each other in terms of best practices for how to maintain kind of their books, And so, I wanted to use that as an example because that was a situation where an organization reached out, told us they kind of had a need, wanted to see how we could help out, and we partnered with them to say, hey, you know what? Yes, let's go ahead, let's go forward and do this. And so, from that experience, one of the things that we're seeing now is, there's a lot of focus on the Olympics, for example, and kind of everybody kind of getting contracts. And, what we normally see is a lot of you know how to do your business, know how to do the delivery of service. And where a lot of the hand holding is going to happen, as it relates to either the World Cup, as it relates to maybe the Super Bowl coming to the Olympics, is going to be on the back office operations part, And so, there are, I think, situations where if you have the relationship and you can get the ear of certain elected officials' offices or their staff members to see how they can kind of partner and kind of do that. And so that's something that I've seen happen before. We're definitely, been open to it, but I would encourage you guys that as a group to kind of think about like, well, where is that need and where is that niche? And can we get, can we get on board and coordinate with, these offices to go ahead and achieve some type of program like that? A couple other things I kind of want to share with you, just some of the things that Councilman Price has worked on kind of here locally, just some examples of where these programs and where businesses help is the Jedi Zone program. I'm hoping that some of you are aware of the program. Actually, I'm going to just briefly share my screen. And so, can you guys see that?
Yes, we can.
We can.
Okay, great. So the jobs and economic development incentives on the Jedi Zone, these are geographic zones and throughout the city of LA. And so really here what we're focusing on is on economic development incentives in underserved areas. And so some of these include permit fee reductions for development. It's about up to $10,000. There's a facade improvement program that comes with that. We actually have 6 in our district that are going through it right now. I believe it's about $75,000 per business. We just launched the microloan program within that same Jedi Zone, and there's also kind of compliance assistance. And so this right here is really a more targeted approach. that almost every council district in the city of LA has one. Here in our district, it's the Goodyear Tract. It's an area that's exclusively industrial. And so for us, or for the councilman, it was really a way to kind of, how do we support that manufacturing base that's in our district here in South LA. Additionally, for the just moving on to the Legacy Business Program, this is a program that's geared for businesses that have been operating that are 20 years and older and are eligible for grants to up to 20,000, as well as technical assistance that in the future will also include kind of the succession planning. A couple of years ago, we did a kind of a study, and we found that in CD9, 17% of our businesses were 20 years and older, and that represented 12,000 jobs. So that means that in another decade or two, if they're not ready for that kind of succession planning, we're going to lose kind of that work base. And so, it was really important for us to kind of look into the future and focus on businesses that have been here, for 20 plus years. Also, one of the biggest things here in South LA is, fortunately, we have a really big problem with, food deserts. And so to kind of help, provide healthy food options and, support our small kind of, mom and pop, corner stores, we developed the Good Food Zone in collaboration with the LA Food Policy Council. And so this really focuses on supporting these businesses within the Good Food Zones, primarily in South LA, and there's another one in the Valley with $25,000 micro grants and technical assistance to be able to support them, not only sell healthier items, but as well as to help to kind of support these businesses. And so all of these programs came from either groups reaching out to us that we needed a more localized attention, either within an industry, within maybe businesses that are older or younger, or in terms of kind of geography. And so such as this one, to come and present, and go before different elected officials' offices and try and get something, here localized for our groups. And so, I wanted to give you guys that as an example because, quite frankly, we sometimes don't hear enough of some of these local groups. And so I think GLAAACC is a perfect vehicle to go ahead and do that. I mean, they've been doing that, I know, a lot in the procurement space, but I also, want you guys to, take the opportunity and to understand and develop those relationships in those offices, because it goes a very long way. Understanding what you offer, understanding your history, what your needs are, is so helpful in shaping the discussions that we have internally and the help that we can, provide there. So I just also want to just, thank, all of you for, taking the time, having the courage, running your businesses and putting yourself out there, because you guys are really, the vibrancy that our neighborhoods need, that they rely on. And just want to, let everybody know that, as far as, the city of Los Angeles, we're here to support you, and, definitely, please reach out. And, I just, I want to point you again to EWD's website, just because a lot of our programs are housed within that department. So I just like to thank you guys for your invitation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I can hear my echo. Hopefully that gets corrected. Okay, good. So yeah, thank you so much. I thought it was cool that you all have the Jedi Zone. Those of you who are like me, Star Wars fans, I got instantly excited. So in the interest of time, I'm going to hop over and introduce our next speaker, Anne-Marie Hickambottom. She has worked in the California State Legislature since 2018, having served as a district representative for former Assemblyman Chris Holden before joining Senator Lola-Smallwood-Cuevas' staff. So just kind of want to give you a bigger lens. We had a county perspective, we have a city perspective, and now we're going on a state level. And going into the Senate. And so prior to her career in the legislature, Anne-Marie spent more than 2 decades in the nonprofit sector. So with that, Anne-Marie, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, McKenzie, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to participate on this panel on behalf of State Senator Lola-Smallwood-Cuevas, who represents one of the most diverse districts in California, the mighty 28th district, which stretches from South LA to Hancock Park and from downtown LA to the west side. Thank you very much, Greater Los Angeles African American Chamber of Commerce, for presenting this information to your members and for giving us the opportunity to share with your members the Senator's legislative work in Sacramento. As has been pointed out, this is a cornerstone. This is where the public policy hits the road and how it affects your businesses. When the Senator took office, she immediately got to work on legislation and state funding to support the community. Right off the starting line, she was able to secure $3 million in state funding to anchor the historic South LA Black Culture District. And this year, she won an additional $2.5 million for the district. This focuses the promotion of local economic opportunity and cultural tourism designed on gaining the attention of international guests for the games of the FIFA World Cup 2026, Olympic and Paralympics 2028, and everything in between. This year, she supported and won budget victories in several areas with small business impact. And just a few that I will highlight and you can be sure to look out for. She was supportive of expanding the film and television tax credit to the tune of $700 million to benefit local workers and small vendors. And later on in my brief presentation, I'll tell you how this is going to be monitored. There was money put forth again, renewed investment in the Women's Business Center enhancement program to expand resources for women entrepreneurs, and another $1.5 million to create a statewide strategy to align higher education and workforce training with industry needs, expanding access to quality career pathways, especially for underrepresented communities. This helps both the workers gain the skills that they need to get good paying jobs and the employers, the businesses, to get the good workers that they need. As we wound up this legislative session, the Senator was successful in having 6 of her bills pass out of the legislature, and they're now headed to the governor's desk. As many of you know, the session ended within September 12th, went into September 13th, and the governor has until October 12th to sign on to the legislation. The particular bills that we're looking at, of the 6, and I'll just highlight, is SB 75, which establishes a pre-apprenticeship pathways program for previously incarcerated people to have better opportunities for employment when they get out of incarceration. This will be a partnership between the Department of Corrections, the Department of Industrial Relations, and the State Building and Construction Trades Council. It's particularly critical resource for women of color, Black and Hispanic women in particular, and especially Black women who face dramatic unemployment rates of up to 44% after incarceration. And as you can imagine, many of these are returning to families trying to pick up an ability to move forward and support their families. SB 275 is an expansion of the period for which a trainer can remain eligible while they go through review. It's expanding it from an annual review to a biannual review, which allows that trainer to stay on the list, continue to provide the skilled training to workers, that they need, stay on that list while they're under review so that there is no gap in the training provided to those potential workers. Finally, the SB 756 mentioned earlier, and the budget, millions of dollars going forward to extend the tax credit. This bill that the Senator authored will ensure that the industry for which these expanded tax credits were put forward is living up to the assertions that they made with respect to increased employment and business opportunities for the community. During her tenure, the Senator has supported funding and legislative protections for small businesses. In particular, she's supported SB 1103, which was Commercial Tenant Protection Act, which creates transparency in commercial leasing and helps prevent community serving small businesses and nonprofits from being displaced. Another bill, SB 1286, expanded protections for small business owners from predatory debt collection practices, which can be devastating to a small business. AB 265 established $100 million in small business recovery funds to provide financial assistance to small businesses and nonprofits impacted by declared emergencies. A assortment of bills by the Senate Representatives Grayson, Padilla, and Limon in 2025 backed legislation to provide strengthened transparency and fairness in small business lending and financing practices. Finally, her legacy project, the desire to preserve our community's culture, guided the senator's effort to establish the Black Cultural District in historic LA, in historic South LA. The application for official state designation is pending. It was submitted to the California Arts Council in August. A final decision will be made in December 2025. We are optimistic that this district will be the first in California to receive the official designation as a Black Cultural District in December, and there will be a formal launch event, which we will definitely be publicizing. The Black Cultural District effort is outlined in a phase 1 report, which explains the process to date of how we got here and where we're going. A digital version of the phase 1 report is available. I don't know how to share my screen, but I can try to put it in the chat or put my information in the chat, and you can reach out to me. Finally, in closing, the LA 28 Business and Employment Volunteer Opportunities. Oh, thank you. Thank you for helping me. Okay, it's there. Thank you. In April, the senator was appointed to the Senate Special Committee on International Sporting Events, LA 28 Olympics and World Soccer. This legislative panel was set up to ensure the state's preparedness to host these international events. The senator's focus is on maximizing the business, employment, and volunteer opportunities for entrepreneurs, workers, and community members. She will be reaching out with our team, our staff team, to LA 28 leadership to advance these priorities and find out how we can make sure that the community is fully engaged. As I close, I would just like to give an announcement. Our next community effort, we will be helping to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month on Sunday, September 28th, co-partnering with Assemblywoman Elawari and Supervisor Holly Matthew will join us in hosting the second annual Hispanic Heritage Community event, which will be held at Mary McLeod Bethune Middle School from noon to 4 p.m. Again, I'll put my contact information in the chat for any follow-up questions. Please remember to stay in touch with us. You may visit our website at sd28.sen.ca.gov. Also, follow us on Instagram at Sen_Smallwood-Cuevas or at Lola-Smallwood-Cuevas. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity to address your membership, and I'll be happy to answer any follow-up questions now or later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm just going to recommend that people put their questions in the chat in the interest of time. We have one more presenter that we want to share. And so I'm going to give her bio now and then allow you all to keep putting your questions. But speakers, please look into the chat. There's a lot of connections and questions being asked. So my friend, LaQuisha Bryant, is a passionate community leader and dedicated public servant who currently serves as a senior field representative for Assemblymember Tina McKinnor, proudly representing California's 61st Assembly District. When she's not working in public policy or championing education reform, LaQuisha enjoys life as a soccer mom, spending time with her family, volunteering, hiking, curating meaningful events, and tackling DIY projects. LaQuisha brings a voice of experience, compassion, and purpose, and she's committed to building a better, more just future for all. I'm also going to take a point of personal privilege and shout out my friend for winning the Young Democrat of the Year with the West Side Unified Young Democrats organization. Very, very, very excited for you. Congrats. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, McKenzie. Thank you, GLAAACC, for having me here this afternoon. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to move through this quickly. Okay, just a bit of an overview of our office for those of you who are perhaps not familiar. Our Assemblywoman who serves the 61st Assembly District is Tina McKinnor. We represent the cities of Gardena, Hawthorne, Inglewood, Lawndale, Lenox, Los Angeles, Venice, the unincorporated areas of West Athens, and Westmont, in addition to Westchester. Our member is the chair of the Public Employment and Retirement Committee, as well as the Los Angeles County Legislative Delegation. Our district director is William Mitchell. Our district scheduler is Candace Henderson. Our constituent services, state agencies, and technology liaison is Haley Hutt. And our faith, senior, and veterans liaison is Kiara Joe. And I'm the liaison for legislative issues, education, and business. As previously shared, the legislature went into recess on September the 13th. They will reconvene on January the 5th. And on October 12th, the governor, has his last opportunity to sign or veto bills. And we just want to let everyone know that on November the 4th, we will have a statewide special election. And just some wins for our office. We have a few bills that are on their way to the governor's desk. AB 57, which will address systemic inequalities in home ownership by reserving a portion of the funds within the California's Home Purchase Assistance Program, specifically for the descendants of formerly enslaved people. AB 62 will create a pathway for victims of racially motivated eminent domain to seek redress for harm caused to them or their families. And then AB 288 will protect California workers' rights to organize. And then AB 851, should a seller receive an unsolicited offer and sell their home to a predatory actor, the seller in the affected zip codes would have up to 4 months after the close of escrow to rescind that sale. If you'd like to learn more about the additional bills that the member has going to the governor's desk, you can please visit the website down below. And just again about the statewide special election, October 20th is the last day to register to vote. All active registered voters will receive a vote by mail ballot. And then here it just lists some important dates to keep in mind as far as when early voting will occur and when is the last day for your vote by mail ballot to be received. A very hot issue right now is the Election Rigging Response Act, also known as Prop 50. If you have any questions regarding this proposition, we do recommend that you contact the Elections Division of the Secretary of State, and the phone number is here at the bottom, or you can go to sos.gov and receive additional information regarding to the Election Rigging Response Act. And then I just want to share an opportunity that may be of interest to you here, especially if you own rental property. The California Earthquake Authority has allocated $20 million in funding for the Earthquake Brace Bolt Grant Program. For those who are income qualified, you can receive a grant up to $7,000. And rental properties for the first time are being included. So if you do have rental property, in addition to your own personal homes, we do recommend that you apply. Applications are now open and they will close on October the 1st. And you can visit earthquakebracebolt.com to see if you qualify and to submit your application. And then I just As I stated that the legislature is in recess, so right now, all of the members and senators should be home in their districts. So it's a great opportunity for you to schedule a meeting with our office. If you have any bill proposals, this is a great time to submit those and be able to speak with staff to see if we can get some of those things in the next legislative session. Here's the contact information for our office. If you need any assistance with any of these various departments, the contact information for each liaison is listed here. And that will conclude my briefing, and I appreciate you all for allowing me to be here with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just as a heads up for the listeners, so we heard from the Senate and the Assembly, and they did like a legislative briefing. I hope that you all were kind of taking a little bit of notes about what was passed in the legislation, and you weren't just hearing the bill numbers and kind of going, kind of zoning out, because some of these bills are specifically targeted, and they made sure to target a lot of them towards businesses and your industries. And so it's important to know kind of what's coming down the pipeline and how it's going to impact your business. And then also shared in the chat were resources for you to search who your representatives are. LaQuisha shared one and I shared another one, and just want to put that out there. So with that, I thank you so much. And I'm going to pass it back to Naomi for closing remarks.
Well, on behalf of the Greater Los Angeles African American Chamber of Commerce, GLAAACC for short, we'd like to thank all of the distinguished speakers for their valuable insights today and for each of you for your participation. And on today's first Impact on Policy session, your engagement is what makes this discussion meaningful and so impactful. At GLAAACC, our mission is simple but powerful. We advocate and promote for the growth of African American businesses through advocacy, opportunity, and strategic alliance. If you're not yet a member of the Chamber, we encourage you to join us, connect with our network, and take advantage of many resources we provide to help businesses thrive. And so today it was really important that we heard the opportunity to get involved, that it be early, often, and strategic. And that's something that I took away from today. I hope we will send a recap out for today of opportunities and links that were shared so that you all have that information with you. I'd like to bring your attention to the screen for two of our upcoming events. On Tuesday, we have our member meetup. It's an opportunity for members to meet one another in a virtual space. It's on Zoom, quite like this, and we'd love to have you join us for that. We also have another GLAAACC in the AM sponsored by Cedars-Sinai on next Thursday, September 25th from 10 to 11:30. And we'd love to have your participation there. It will feature the supplier diversity program and real success stories for local businesses to participate. And then finally, mark your calendars for the next Impact on Public Policy. We will have another session coming to you in December, and we look forward to December 11th. And we look forward to continuing today's important dialogue with you. Thank you once again for joining us. And that's 3:59, so right on the mark. If there were any last minute questions in the chat, we would do our best to answer those before we send you on your way. But thank you for joining us today for the Impact of Public Policy. Thank you to our moderator, McKenzie Neely-Wright of AT&T, to each of the speakers for your time. And thank you, all of you. We look forward to seeing you on Tuesday for Member Meetup. Join us there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a great afternoon.